And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus, 106 in the afternoon. Temperatures across the area in the upper 70s. Pretty nice day out there. Just a few scattered cumulus clouds and low humidity out there. Just a gorgeous one. Get out and enjoy it. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with Wonder Boy Meteorologist Justin Storm and our wonderful, talented Ag Director, Bridgette Readel. Good afternoon, guys. It's a gorgeous day outside.
I can't hear you, Dean. What you got to talk more into the microphone louder.
So you just decided you want him to yell more?
Well, I was just trying to get him to bite. I see I made him bite too hard. He hurt his tongue, so he's not talking now. That's all right, though. Bridgette, how are you doing on this, as Dean said, beautiful day?
Doing well. Right now I've had a chance to see quite a bit of crop across both Dakotas, and it's impressive to see that things are moving along rapidly. We're starting to see corn that even has some tassels on top, so it's not going to be too terribly long before those are fully emerged, and we're just moving through the summer at a great rate. Soybeans seem to have rebounded. I had some text messages earlier this week saying, well, my soybeans look like crap. Let's be honest, everybody's soybeans look like crap until after the 4th of July, and right now is about the time they finally start to get it together. So I'm very happy to see that. Good crop. And I think that small grains, we may not have in North Dakota a lot of wheat and barley that gets combined yet this month in July, but south of us, certainly we're seeing more wheat and barley that's turning and ready to go. Keeping an eye out. There's been some folks that had to treat for disease like stripe rust in wheat and fusarium head blight in both wheat or barley.
I heard a rumor that the United States is looking like it might have a record-setting corn crop. Bridgette, what do you know about that? If that's true, what does that mean for corn markets?
Right now, corn markets aren't awesome. I think that most everybody would like to see an uptick in their market if they were selling for cash right now. The difference is if you have a marketing plan and you had forward contracted to be able to sell, like if you were holding over some crop and were going to be selling later so that you knew you had a locked in price. I do suspect that we will see a fair amount of corn that gets put into bins and gets held until the prices increase after we get through harvest. Soybeans and wheat, a lot of times they just go to the elevator. Soybeans especially. Wheat, if you've got the bin space to sit on wheat and wait for the price to come up, you will. I think with corn, they're going to try to do much of the same thing. And that's not everybody, but that's a fair share of the market. We can't store sugar beets until the price changes. You are contracted to bring your beets in during harvest, and most potatoes in North Dakota are grown under contract as well. So those are going to come in, go to a warehouse, sit in a potato warehouse until it's time for delivery, just based on your delivery dates on your contracts. Because remember, we raise a pile of potatoes up here that get used not only by J.R. Simplot for French fries for McDonald's, but also Frito-Lay takes a lot of our potatoes for the chip market.
Ah, I see. What about sunflowers? Is that a contracted thing as well, or can you hold sunflowers for indefinite?
You can. Sunflowers have a tendency to get bugs, so if you've got to be real careful about fumigating your bins. Most folks are not raising sunflowers right now without a contract. So contracts haven't been super for the oilseed market, and so I don't see very many acres of sunflowers. Ironically, in North Dakota, a lot of the sunflower acres that didn't get planted went to canola. We saw a great big uptick in canola acres, not just north of Highway 200 where they're traditionally at. I saw some just in the central part of the state this year as well, just in the last couple of days, south of I-94. So if there's a good contract out for canola and you are able to score one of those, that's a great spot for you. That canola oil's going in for a crush for oil. And now, when it comes to the confection sunflowers, the ones you're going to eat at the ballpark, you're likely going to be just fine because those contracts have been established and delivery will take place. So you can still have your sunflower seeds at the ball game.
Now, pretty sure I passed this canola field up by Buxton, up I-29 before you get to Grand Forks, one there on the right side or east side of the interstate. That's the one where the field turns yellow, right? Like yellow flowers. That's canola.
Yeah, right, and it's shorter. I mean, sunflowers definitely stand out, and those heads have not yet emerged for this time of the year. But you're right, we're seeing a lot of blooming canola out there.
Yeah, it looked good.
Now, Bridgette, you said something about the corn prices. Like you think they'll hold on to the corn until after harvest to see if the prices go up. Again, I think we touched on this yesterday. Is a lot of that, obviously a lot of it is on yield, but if we have a bumper crop this year, that's not going to bring prices up. What makes you think that the prices might tend to go up at the end of the year?
Elections.
Okay.
I mean, so feel free to use the analogy that right now those prices are politically depressed. I'm not a grain marketer. That's not my forte by any means, but you can certainly hear that discussion amongst others in the industry that say, well, our grain prices are going to be down right now until we get past the elections and see what happens for trade. The U.S. is also currently in an export deficit. We're not exporting nearly what we used to. Some of that has to do with China because their population is dropping and their consumption is dropping as well. And they had always been a major export market for us. China's currently doing an awful lot of close trading, if you will, with Brazil. At one time, their trading currency was always the U.S. dollar, and they're not using the U.S. dollar at this point either. They're just trading between the two. Not good for our economy as much.
No.
Nope. Yeah. Apparently not.
Wow.
So if we get a chance to talk about those things today, one of the things I did on Monday was I attended Bell Bank's Ag Views, which is an event they host every Monday. I'll probably fill you in after we get into our next segment. There was a lot of very interesting little tidbits of information that I thought I wanted to share with all of our listeners on a day like today when we don't have a guest coming in, and it's just time for all of us to share and dissect what we know about weather and ag on a daily basis.
Just a little bit. Hey, I think we got a caller on the line, do we not? Or did we lose our caller?
We do. We have John on line 1. John, you got a question for us?
Well, yeah, it's actually addressed to you, Justin, specifically. I heard you're getting this big raise, and supposedly I've been told to start constructing a new state-of-the-art weather office for you. So I have a couple of quick questions. Do you like walnut or mahogany?
Mahogany every day, John.
Okay. And in front of the desk, do you want it off-centered, centered, or, a little left or right? The trap door that gets rid of the unwanted visitor and just boots them out to the parking lot.
Just,
on the
just to the right of the desk and the walkway there.
Okay, that's important things I need to know because, I was told this one has got to be bigger than Dean's, so, I have to have some stuff to work with.
I feel it, John. Thanks for asking the specifics, though.
Do you want mood music like that playing softly in the background too, or?
It helps.
Yeah, a little softer though in the background.
Well, yeah, that was a little brash. That was
a little in your face.
A little heavy-handed there, guys. A little heavy-handed.
I got to get back to determining important things like slope of roof that Secret Service agents can hang on to and some other stuff. So.
Yeah, be careful with that, John. It doesn't take much.
Well, evidently, so I've been told.
Yeah. I mean, your driveway might be a little too steep, so be careful. Oh, man. Hey, guys, Bentley had a joke for me.
Hey.
He wanted me to pass along to you guys. Okay, are you ready?
Does it end with Joe Mama?
Yeah, no, not this one. So what do you call a cow that falls to the ground?
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say ground beef.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm glad Bentley's bringing us all of our material these days. That's awesome.
What about a cow with 3 legs there, Dean?
A cow with 3 legs. What would you call a cow with 3 legs?
Oh, some good old lean beef. There you go. I'd get another knee slapper in.
Oh, man.
Glad you did. That's what made
Not even a rim shot.
I'd have to go to Jay's.
You're really no, it's on. You're lacking over there.
Well, it's because you're always here.
You're not very familiar with it, but that's all right, Dean. We'll get some more training sessions on it with you.
An air duct.
Well,
oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody, stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
There, that's it.
Wait.
That's it.
Down.
Yep, we hit it. Good job, Dean.
You bet.
Proud of you, bud.
Hey, no problem, man.
So next
Bridgette.
week, a week from today, when we are in South Dakota for Hefty Seeds IPHD Day, I can't imagine who's going to be running the board for us because all three of us are slated to be in Baltic, South Dakota.
Well,
next
Justin
week,
might not be going.
He might not.
Yeah.
I know it was, especially if it's going to be hot.
Yeah, if it's over 80, it's too hot. He won't be going.
We're in the middle of a field. We've dropped it down to 78 because of radiation.
Oh.
So can you recap the weather and maybe even give us a little outlook for what next week might look like in South Dakota? Because then in our next segment, I'll run down the agenda for us.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. The start of next week, well, we don't care what start of next week looks like because we're not going to be down there till the latter part of next week. But we're looking at temperatures kind of, down around Sioux Falls. They'll be a few degrees warmer than what we've got up here through early next week. Now, towards the end, and there's still a little bit of question of how fast the heat comes back next week. But it looks like by Thursday, the heat should start to build back in, especially to our south. So 80s for sure, and we could have some low 90s possible with the increased humidity as well. So we'll kind of see how it pans out. But right now it looks dry down there, so that's good news for next Thursday down around Sioux Falls area. So dress appropriately.
Yeah, you know what? And I have been to that event when it has been 65 degrees and sort of drizzly.
Oh, wow.
And I have been there when it's been roughly the heat of the sun. That was really uncomfortable. But it can be either direction. We just got to wait and see what the next week starts to look like. But do plan ahead. And if you are thinking about maybe heading down to see us at that event live, well, we're going to provide you with some details about that, where we're going to be, what our schedule looks like. Please go ahead and hang on. When we return, we're going to discuss that and so much more. I've just got NDSU's crop and pest report out today, so got lots of things to share about what's going on in the ag world. Be right back. Hey, welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for being here today. Much appreciated. And maybe next week, Thursday, we're going to see you. You might be stopping by to join us at Hefty Seed Company's Ag PhD Field Day. That'll be taking place next Thursday, which, if I do my math right, I believe is July 25th, right? I didn't even look at a calendar, I guessed.
Next Thursday? Yeah, a week from today. Yeah. And we're going to be one of the guest speakers.
We will.
And we're going to be talking about the LRC.
We are. So this day, when people ask me how early should I get there, I'm not kidding you. I plan on being out at the field by like 6:30 in the morning, because you early birds who are used to going for coffee at 6:30 in your local communities, you're out there anyway. So I might as well join you. And Dean and I are going to be speaking at the Morton Center at 7:10 a.m. So bring your coffee cup. You're probably going to want to grab a donut. Stop by, sit down, and yes, we're going to talk about the LRC, guys. Any highlights you want to make sure that you entice people to stop and visit with us at 7:40 a.m. next Thursday?
Well, there's a couple new products that Gary has out for the LRC, really geared toward the ag community. So we'll be going over that when we're down there. So I think it's something that the ag community and for those that have already subscribed to Gary's LRC outlook and hit some of his new products, will be able to tell you that this is something that can definitely help a lot of people in the ag community. We've got a lot of testimonials of how it's helped and you know how it's a great product, and I think people will be pretty informed on, you know, we'll go over how it works and who it's helping. I mean, it's not just the ag community. It's any business that's weather sensitive. It's a great tool to use for sure.
So then there's so many things when you speak of tools. We're one that's part of a farming input situation, whether you have livestock or grain farming. But there's so many more things that are going on out there. There's a whole lineup of 2025 equipment, the SS7 series combines, See and Spray enhancements, high horsepower 9RX tractors, and planting technology is going to be discussed. Of course, when you walk on the grounds in the morning, you have the opportunity to meet Brian and Darren Hefty, and they'll be doing a guided tour through all the plots after we're done speaking at about 8:30. So, Dean, we are ahead of the guys who actually host this. There'll be a national anthem at 10:30. One of our previous show guests and good friend of mine, Shark Farmer, so Rob Sharkey out of Illinois, he's on the Morton Center stage at 11 a.m. That's going to be followed by our show is going to be at 1 o'clock, just before we go on air, you guys. At noon, I'm hosting a panel with farmers, Lee Lubers of South Dakota, Temple Roads, Heath Cottrell. I'm going to visit with them probably about a number of their inputs that they're using on the farm. We're going to do our show live from 1 to 2 o'clock. And then again at 2:30, I host another panel, and this is with a group of women in ag. And I'm typing away up my notes and questions in between segments here on the show today. And I'll be having Farmer Grace, Michelle Martin of the Ag Mag out of Texas, and Brandy Buzzard. All three of those ladies are going to join me on stage as well. So it's going to be a big week, or getting ready for it, and it's going to be a great day to stop by. Weather dependent, of course, for some of you, but please do come and join us down at Hefty Seeds next week. Looking forward to being there.
Yeah, quite a catalog you got there, Bridget. That's a busy day for you.
Okay, so not kidding. This is my agenda. If you're looking at the live stream, you can see all my highlights.
Holy
of places
moly.
I gotta be. So
wow.
It'll be a lot.
How long has it been since you've made it down there? It's been a couple of years now.
Just last year I missed, because thank you, United Airlines, for dumping me in Denver and not letting me make my flight to Sioux Falls the night prior. So yeah, that was on United. So
I thought you had missed the year before that, but you're right. You were there 2 years ago.
2 years ago it was hot. Last year was hotter. This year's got to give us some reprieve, right? It's going to be better. I can feel it, you guys. It's going to be okay.
Me too.
I'm looking forward to it. And, you know, in some of our cropping systems, we're looking forward to a change in weather as well. I got to tell you, when you all did the LRC calendar back in March, I think we did our weather special, and you lined up all the things that we were going to see for weather this year. I really anticipated this was going to be the year of the bug. There was going to be a lot of pests in crop. We haven't had that many. Counts are right now low on grasshoppers, soybean aphids, spider mites. We had some leaf hoppers early on. that affected some sugar beets in isolated areas, but it hasn't been a widespread outbreak. So I'm kind of surprised at that. Way to deliver, gentlemen. Way to deliver.
Why do you think that is?
More moisture than I anticipated. Now, when you laid out the calendar, we talked about when could be possible weather events, but we also talked about higher temperatures at that time. And then we went into a cycle where we were very wet. I think the level of accumulated precipitation was much higher in May and early June than we anticipated. And I just did not see the development the way I expected. I thought we'd be a lot drier, even with some major storms or with some major weather events. I didn't think they'd drop that much moisture. So I'm just surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the skeeters are aplenty, so.
They're not awesome, but
Yeah.
they're a year in, year out. Some of these other things like the soybean aphids, the grasshoppers, etc., not always so common. One of the questions that was in today's NDSU crop and pest report had to talk about soybeans, and sometimes we're seeing nodulation on the soybeans that's not very good. And if you pull up a soybean plant and you see those little swollen, small swellings on the root system, those nodules are supposed to be fixing their own nitrogen. Well, if they're pink or red inside the nodules, that's great. But if they're not, there's a number of reasons that could be happening. You might be below a 6.5 pH. Your inoculant could have been had too much heat to it, or maybe it was frozen, exposed to direct sunlight, or expired. Excessive wet or saturated soils. Okay, raise your hands. Who had those? Yep. Pretty much everybody in Richland, Cass, Trail counties, we all had that. Compacted soils where we had limited oxygen, maybe a high nitrogen content, or severe iron chlorosis or iron deficiency. So there's a number of reasons that could have been the case for some of our soybeans. Hopefully, I think you guys are giving me a little bit more of a dry pattern now into August. Maybe that'll help us turn some things around. I think you are. I hope that's our forecast.
There's still a couple of wet periods in it, but drier than spring. At least in how frequent the rains come.
Well, this weekend, you're telling me it's just a possible pop-up showers, not pop-up showers that drop an inch and a half, right? Right? I ask for a lot. I know.
It's okay, Bridgette. No. You're just here to help.
Yeah. No organized storms coming our way. This stuff over the weekend is just hit and miss. But, I mean, if you get caught under one of these, it could drop
They're just slow movers.
Yeah, it could drop some brief heavy rain because the steering winds aloft aren't that strong. But they'll be few and far between. But, like you said, just like the other day, I think Parker, did he pick up close to an inch on his field?
Oh, no, over the weekend. Cumulative, it was 2 inches, just north of Glendon.
Where there were some areas that hardly got over a quarter of an inch. So, I mean, it all, it really is, it truly is a hit and miss kind of thing.
I could use a good inch of rain.
You could, actually. You're in an area that would take it.
I think Grand Forks, we've come in at about 0.26 in the last 18 days. So we're well behind on at least the timely rain. But everything below is good. Just the grass surface plants are kind of struggling a little bit with it.
Sure.
Gardens take a nice heavy, just fine.
Yeah, they take a nice heavy dew and feel pretty much recovered, right?
Yeah. I mean, they just need like a quick half-inch of rain, and then we're good for another week.
That'd be all right. So it'll also be all right that we're going to catch the bottom of the hour news. But when we return, if anybody is interested, I've got the details. What do you mean if? I know you're all interested. We have the details for NDSU's campus gardening event that's set for July 30th. I can run that down for you. And then I have a lot of highlights from the event I was at earlier this week with an Agri Outlook, and it'll probably be some startling statistics for all of you about our global farm economy. And we'll cover all of that when we return.
And welcome back to the program. Thanks for rejoining us. Numbers to the program, if you want to join in our conversation today, feel free to do so at any point. 701-293-9000. That's the Red Wing Shoe line. Or you can always reach us via email as well. That's weatherorag@flagfamily.com. Now, Bridgette, you were teasing a little bit there before we caught up with bottom of the hour news. Tell us a little bit about what you've learned at the Ag Outlook meeting on Monday.
Okay, guys, I have a whole pile of statistics and information, and I can't wait to give you reactions to it. What I did was I attended an event that was hosted in Fargo on Monday, and one of the two presenters was Dr. David Cole. He's professor emeritus at Virginia Tech in Virginia, and he is world renowned for his outlook on the economy, particularly agriculture's economy, and what we can learn that's going on. So here's a few statistics. First of all, more than 1/2 of the world's population is going to experience a major election this year. So if you feel like there's a lot of chaos and turmoil and volatility right now, it's going to be even higher. When you look at the European Union, a number of their elections are big changes because most of that population is lashing back on green energy. They don't like the greening policies, and they're finding that folks are stepping up and wanting to be a bigger part of their voice in federal government. And so there's going to be a lot more chaos. Do the math on this. From 2025 until 2040, $68 trillion of wealth is going to transfer. $4 trillion of that will be in agriculture alone. I know that like 15 trillion of that is Dean's, but man, everybody else has really got a lot they got to do.
I try to diversify everything, but hey.
Are you diversifying enough?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a good chunk of change on ag side.
Isn't that huge? $4 trillion. But it gets even more interesting when I give you this stat. 1/3 of the wealth will be owned by women in the year 2025. 1/3 of the wealth in the U.S. 2/3 of the wealth will be owned by women in the year 2040.
Why is that? Because all the guys are dying off? What's the deal? I mean, women are better with money as it is, so maybe that's
they
why.
They are. Women are better with money as one.
Uh-huh.
They're also it's coming through attrition, if you will, because their spouse dies and they're inheriting it. Women have also made really good investments, and some of those investments will come to fruition for them in that time frame. So I thought that was pretty wild. I have to do this one kind of off the top of my head. I'll have to double check my notes. Some of the statistics they gave was today, if you use the state of Iowa as the example, 12% of the farmland in Iowa is owned by women over 80 years old.
Whoa.
Huh.
Yeah. Grandma's keeping it together. And then when you look at what's going to be transferring in the same period of time that I just mentioned by 2040, you're going to see 47% of the farmland in Iowa will be owned by women. Doesn't matter the age, but owned by women. And that's on the farmland.
Cool.
Now, is part of that because the kids don't want it? Like passing it down?
Well, and can't necessarily afford it because as we've talked about, you have this volume of farmland that grandma and grandpa or mom and dad had. And they're trying to transition plan it, or they have not yet made the decision to turn it over to one of the kids. And when I say kids, this can be people who are in their 60s who haven't yet been able to take possession of the farming operation that they've been a part of. Well, after dad or grandpa dies and it's all left to mom or grandma, that's who's going to own a big chunk of those dollars.
Now, do you have any stats on by 2040, because that's where you're going out to, right, 2040?
Yes.
What percentage of farms are going to be owned by corporations or families?
First of all, a lot of it's going to depend on the states, right? Because corporate farming laws are mandated by states. Federally or nationally, we look at currently family farms make up 2% of what we do in. And when I say family farms, I take that back. 2% of the population is doing the farming for the rest of the United States. What percentage of that is family farms? First of all, we have to define the family farm a little bit differently. If I am a farmer with a son and a son-in-law, in some states we're considered a family farm because we're all related. But if we formed a corporation of that, and the three of us are active farmers and truly farmers, but we formed a corporation, what category do we fall underneath?
Not family, right? Yeah.
Right. Walmart is not.
Well, I think it'd still be a family farm. It's just, what would they be? They'd be listed under an LLC, wouldn't they, or something like that? Or is it a different acronym for them?
It can be S corps. S corporations too.
Yeah.
Think of it this way: when people talk about a corporate farm, normally I think their thought process revolves around Walmart is out buying up farmland. They're not. Walmart isn't looking to buy farmland. What they are looking to do is to contract with people who will farm it for them. So I'm going to use the example of Driscoll Farms. You're all familiar with that name because you go to the grocery store and buy their strawberries or their blueberries. But Driscoll Farms doesn't actually own farmland. They are a contractor where they go out and contract with you, Justin, the farmer, to raise X amount of pounds of strawberries to be delivered by X amount of dates, and then they're sold under the Driscoll Farms name. You have to follow their guidelines, what you can use for plant growth regulators, insecticides, how much water volume to pump to them. Coors does it with barley for their beer. They have a list of approved practices that you can do if you're raising barley under contract for Coors. Coors doesn't own the land, Driscoll Farms doesn't own the land, but they're still producing a product with their name on it that goes to you, the consumer.
I see. So how would you define or categorize a corporate farm or a corporation operation on a farm? Would that kind of be like, I'm just going to use Aldi as a hypothetical example. Aldi owns farmland. They grow their own produce that they sell in their own store. Is that how you'd consider a corporate farm, or what are your thoughts on it? And then maybe are there some examples right now of that?
I would follow your example and say that sounds more like a corporate farm. But again, it's not easy to make a broad category, a broad generalization. There's so many different things that can play into that. So individually, you have to decide what you deem a corporate farm or what you don't. When you drive down the road and you see signs in front of a soybean field that tell you what variety was planted there, so you can watch if it's a variety that you want to buy in the future, it doesn't mean it's owned by that seed company. No, it's owned by a farmer, but they bought the seed from a company and now they want to advertise on behalf of that company.
So what's all this fear then about corporations becoming corporate farms? Where is this whole fear stemming from, and what's this even mean?
Change. I think change and emotion are really tied to it. As Americans, we still like the idea that mom and dad and a pitchfork run an operation, but they're changing. Those are becoming businesses. Remember the whole hoopla that the Gates Foundation bought some land up in Cavalier County? Well, they're not actively farming it. They didn't go buy tractors and move them out here to plant a crop. They bought the land and they rent it back on a cash crop basis to a local farmer. So we have to be very clear in our definitions. It's easy to throw out the term, it's a corporate farm, but what does that really mean? There's some differences.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
then a lot of that's just kind of maybe playing into a role that the farmland is being bought by someone else other than someone actively farming that land because maybe they can't afford it.
And because farmland, you're right, we're not making any more farmland. Farmland is considered a very stable investment with a stable return on investment. So you have people from the coastal states who maybe sold a high dollar property and have extra cash, and now they want to make an investment. And so they're buying the land, they're bidding up local owners in order for them to have the land and then rent it back to someone else.
I see. So that's where it's coming from. Because I was kind of lost there for a moment. We were talking about corporate farms, but then they really don't farm the land at all.
They may have ownership, but doesn't mean they can farm. And that varies by state because North Dakota's corporate farm laws are very different versus South Dakota's or Minnesota's. So,
well, a lot of loopholes there.
There's a lot of things to think about. So, okay, here's something else. And this is just stats on the U.S. economy. So I'm curious what you guys think of this. Have you heard the term of an ALICE, defining an employee? What's an ALICE employee?
No idea.
A weak one?
Bueller? Nope. ALICE means you are an asset limited, income constrained, but employed employee. And that is 40% of current U.S. workforce.
Hi.
Which It used to be that one of the things that we focused on for employees were DINKs, double income, no kids. Now we've changed to ALICEs. Okay.
Again, what was that, Alice? What did it stand for?
Asset limited, income constrained, employed.
Huh. And that's 40% of the workforce?
40% of the U.S. workforce.
Basically,
that sounds about
paycheck to paycheck employee.
Yeah, paycheck to paycheck.
Absolutely. And what goes along with that, and I realize maybe some folks are like, well, this doesn't sound like it has very much to do with farming. Oh, but it does, because we're talking about farm employees and farms themselves. Right now, I get a press release probably every other day from the USDA announcing a new grant, a new program, some sort of new funding that you can participate in. But let me throw this stat at you. Government debt increases every 100 days by $1 trillion.
Oof.
That's nice.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Now,
nice.
I know,
real nice.
Ouch.
I know plenty of farmers that use credit cards as a way to make some purchases. First of all, it's an easy way to do a transaction, right? Second of all, you can gain miles, cash back. You can do all the bonuses. Credit card debt in this country right now is $1.3 trillion. It's the highest it's been since 2012. But also delinquency on that debt and auto loans, which of course can include farm vehicles, is also the highest it's been since 2012.
Yikes.
I wonder why that is.
Because the economy's in the toilet and you're going to have to borrow money. And
because you're Alice's, right?
Because
because we're Alice's and everything else got too expensive.
Okay, so let's talk about the ag economy just a little bit and what is happening on some trends with countries. Because remember I said earlier that our U.S. ag export market is actually down right now. So who are some of our biggest trading partners? Well, one is China. Pardon my shuffling here as I look for all of my notes and information. China, when you look at the impact they're currently having on the U.S., for one thing, their population is over 60 years of age. Okay, the majority of their population. They're the second largest populated country, but they're literally running out of people because their one-child policy means there's going to be less than 1 billion people in China by the year of 2050. Their household wealth is down 40% and their consumer consumption is down as well. That's the case. That means that they're not spending the money on the agricultural export or imports that we're sending to them. So when you look at China, you have an opportunity here where we're not going to have them as a great trading partner anymore. Who's going to start buying from us? When that question
India.
was posed, India was suggested. But here's something to know about India. India is very much a farm-focused country. They are protectionist. They want to feed their people first. So when the whole Ukrainian conflict broke out, India was one of the first countries to say, we're not shipping any more stuff out of country. We are keeping it in country to feed our own people. And by doing that, they managed to make sure that they didn't have any famines or rioting. But it's hard for them to become a giant trading partner with us because they have so much fractional and subsistence farmers. You have all these tiny farms doing small things, and it's hard to get them together. They also don't always have the infrastructure because this is a country where only 3/4 of their population is literate.
Oh, no.
3/4 of their population is literate.
Uh-oh.
Yikes.
Sounds like some bad
so
Alice's.
So there's a situation where we're not going to see India step up to be that big trading partner that can fulfill what's going on with China.
Well, I'm going to shoot with Africa because I think that's the next continent that's really going to kind of pop off population-wise here in the next couple of decades. But along the sides of that and population growth and decline, I think that's a huge thing that's completely overlooked and unknown to a lot of people. They're like, oh, the population. Most countries are going through a population decline right now. Japan is in a terrible situation. China's going downhill. America is honestly no better when it comes to birth rates.
Yep.
You're
exactly
all
right.
modern countries are shrinking very fast.
Right. And when we
make a difference.
when we come back, let's play a little trivia let's see if we can stump Bridgette. I've got 2 trivia questions I'm going to throw at Bridgette to see if she can get. If you have any trivia ag questions, you want to play Stump Bridgette, 701-293-9000. But first, we got to take a break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. 1:53 in the afternoon. Temperatures in the upper 70s, mid to upper 70s across the area, and a light south breeze. A pretty decent day out there today. Enjoy today because humidity will be increasing as we head into the weekend. We'll have more on that in just a little bit. But we're going to play Stump, or see if we can stump Bridgette.
Sure.
All right, Bridgette. Currently, who is the largest agricultural land occupier in the state of Nebraska? Who is
land occupier?
Yeah, who owns the most agriculture land in Nebraska?
Okay, this may sound funny, but the Mormon Church.
Wow.
I'm not kidding.
You are 100% correct. How did you? I figured you'd go with Ted Turner. I figured for sure you'd go with Ted Turner.
No, he's like number 4. The Mormon Church actually has been acquiring a lot of land over the last few years. They are one of the largest landowners in the U.S.
Why is that?
I thought you were going
Because
for country.
Yeah.
Because they believe that there will be an apocalyptic type event, and that they will need to have a way to source food for their people. So they want to have the land availability to farm.
Okay. All right, we're going to try again here.
The look on your face was pretty
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I thought I had you on that one, man. As of 2022, and I'm guessing that was the last census, North Dakota, and I'll give you leeway on this, had how many family farms? We were just talking about family farms earlier. Approximately, okay. I'll give you a little bit of leeway.
Okay. I am going to say that if we were to rank them, let's say 60,000 family farms.
No, 21,555. I thought it would be a little bit more than that, too.
Yeah.
I guess that comes back down to how do you define it?
Right.
Right. And my first thought was 30,000 farms. And I'm like, no, I got to be more optimistic than that.
So it's
let me throw.
That's 86.
Let me throw one back at you.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dean. That's 86% of all the farms in the state. The remaining farms are owned by 9% by partnerships, 3% corporations, and other entities 2%.
So a little bit on livestock then.
Right.
Let's talk about the dairy industry, because there's 2 proposed large dairies that could come into the state of North Dakota. And if they do that, they will literally quadruple the amount of dairy animals in the state of North Dakota. Any idea how many dairy animals we're currently milking in state?
Ooh, no clue. Justin,
you got anything?
9,000.
Ooh, he's so close. 14,000.
Oh, okay.
Yep, we're only milking 14,000 head. Yep.
All right.
Now, how many? Okay, Brazil has one of the largest beef herds on the globe. How many times larger is Brazil's beef herd than ours in the U.S.?
How much larger?
4.5.
Yep.
I'd say 15%.
4. They are 4 times as large as us for the beef on, like the number of animals on hoof in their country.
Wow. Okay.
Today's all about facts and learning.
We have the record for the lowest herd we've ever had for beef animals.
We have lowest herd we've had since, not ever, but since 1963. So if you do the math on that.
Well, that's basically ever.
In your world. Yeah.
That's basically when Dean was born, wasn't it? Or is that still a few years early?
It's a few years off, but it's close enough. It's close.
55?
Okay.
Yeah, no, 45. I was born right after
45?
Right after World War II. Right at the end of World War II. Right at the end.
Perfect.
I carry my age well. All right.
You do.
You're 1 for 1. Okay, let's see if you can end this on a winning note. As of 2022, and again, we'll give you an approximate here. So let's see. In North Dakota, we had 21,555 family farms in 2022. How many number of total farms as of 2022 were in Minnesota? The total number of farms in Minnesota as of 2022.
So that's where I'm going to go to the 35,000.
67.
Oh, I should have gone with my 60.
You should have 67,000. That was down 300 from 2021. So it's probably even a little bit less than that right now.
Hey, get this. You know how when we're always told that people are just completely ravishing the rainforests in South America in order to make more room to farm and build cities?
Right.
Facts.
Here's a stat for you. Okay, they're not tearing up rainforests, but they're taking out grasslands. And at the rate of each year, land equal to half the size of Illinois goes into farm production in Brazil. Half the size of Illinois.
Interesting.
All about learning today, kids.
We learned a lot today.
That's a lot.
We learned a lot today. Well, hey, I want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. For Bridgette, for Justin, and myself. Don't go anywhere because the Jay Thomas Show, he's live out at Cruise Night. That's coming up next.